little bit of a hiatus. I know it has been a very sprinty early spring season with at least one speaking engagement every week for the last 4 weeks. And weeks like today have two. And I am off to a networking event, Truck and Tap, which I am very excited to go meet some people here in a little bit. But I thought, you know what? I need to come on here and I need to share from my heart a message about purpose being a motivator for today's early career professionals. And I know that organizations can do a hit or miss job with this idea of macro purpose, this high level purpose that doesn't always move the needle in the way organizations may want it to be moved. And as somebody who talks about purpose, I know the first time that I even contemplated purpose was over a decade ago when I was just feeling a little bit lost in life. Like I had graduated with a hospitality design degree into the Great Recession, and I was feeling a loss of identity, not knowing who I was, not as a student, not in that chosen career path. And I remember feeling like on the outside, I was checking all the boxes, doing everything right. I had, a well-paying job for my age. I was a homeowner. I was in a long-term relationship, but I couldn't help but feeling like something was missing. Like there was just more to life than I was getting to taste. And I ended up traveling after a pretty serious health crisis ended in me going under the knife in surgery at the age of 27 for what they called an exploratory surgery to see if the lump I had found was cancerous or not. And thankfully, it was not, and through some holistic health remedies and a lot of probiotics and some alternative healing modalities, within 12 months, I felt better than I'd ever felt in my entire life. And I remember standing on the front porch of my Jacksonville house, just feeling better than I had ever felt in my life. And kind of realizing after I'd come through this health crisis that I'd had it all wrong my whole life. I realized health was our most valuable resource and time, no, health was our greatest wealth and time was our most valuable resource. And so that day, I made a decision that would shape my global perspective that I have today on human behavior and communications, because I decided then and there to put tenants in my home to sell everything I owned except for one carry on suitcase and travel for the next 5 years across 35 different countries. And no, I didn't plan for it to be 5 years. No, I didn't ever think that I would come back. But I did at the end of it because while I felt like I was on a quest of courage, I was actually on a quest of purpose. And I realized sipping my exotic smoothies in the most exotic destinations around the world that it all started to mean nothing without a community of people who've known me throughout my life and different stages of life. So I came home after seeing the best and worst of communities all over the world with this purpose to build better communities right in my hometown. And it has been a very, very difficult 6 years from moving back home thinking I would get into the events industry for the first time after facing my fear of public speaking, have an amazing opportunity on the Mind Valley University main stage. I thought, "This is it. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life," and I moved home in December 2019 to get into the events industry. Obviously, that didn't work out for me, and I had to rebuild a life. I was broke, homeless, jobless, communityless, rebuilding a life in a pandemic. Later, I found my stride in corporate advertising. I shot up the ladder and got several promotions thinking, "This is it. Finally, I found my stride." Started planning for a family and was downsized 7 days later. And as somebody coming to you as a shy introvert who works best as a team, it is my calling, it is my purpose in life to be a solopreneur professional speaker. And I'd be lying if I told you that there were days that I didn't want to get up, that there were days that it was super difficult being an ADHD, neurodivergent solopreneur leader trying to navigate all this change, all this disruption, the show business industry, but purpose propels me forward. Purpose propels all of us when times get hard. And tomorrow morning I will be speaking virtually this time with the SITE Global Society of Incentive Travel Excellence, a global organization for incentive travel. They are having a speaker showcase in the morning. And organizations like this for incentive travel, giving their high performers a luxury once in a lifetime experience, well, they're doing a good job of giving motivators to their employees through this idea of micro purpose, right? The individual has something to strive for. And now most organizations may or may not forget about macro purpose. I think every company at its onstart has a vision and mission statement, whether or not that gets lost in the day to day shuffle. This is something that I call macro purpose, that top level organizational purpose. And leaders are seeing that it's more and more important to be purpose driven these days if they want to attract buyers, and especially the next generation of buyers, and if they want to attract next generation talent. Purpose is kind of a requirement, but how does it have tangible organizational impact? It doesn't always. And just like campaigns, Hilton does a great job of campaigns like Travel with Purpose, or the meetings and events industry. When we meet, we change the world. Well, that's all great. But if we're not translating this top level purpose down into micro purpose, how the organization, how the individual experiences the benefits of the organizational purpose. How are the leaders, the entry level professionals, how do their daily tasks, how is it purposeful? Because purpose answers the question, why does this task matter now? And if you live in America and are experiencing any of the income asset ratio squeeze that we've been seeing on this new generation, you will know that the American dream expectations of having a car and a house, well, it's become really inaccessible to most. This Gen Z that is coming up in the workforce right now, well, to get a car is like 65 to 70% of their income, compared to generations prior where it was 0 to 40% of your income. So we're seeing that the expectations aren't really matching the reality. And this is why we hear the stereotypes around this generation of they're just money hungry, they're so entitled, they have unrealistic career progression expectations. And it's like, well, yeah, money is a really big concern. And as leaders, there's nothing that we can do about these economic realities, but we can provide a different type of motivator. And that is what the micro purpose is so good at doing. So, if you're watching this now, if you're interested, there is a formula. I call it the 3R formula that helps you take high level purpose and translate that down to the individuals on the front line, your newest career professionals. It helps you to reframe their roles and their tasks, their daily lives, into something that has purpose. So, if you're in the hotel sector and you have a young professional standing behind the reception desk, how do their daily efforts matter in the big picture? Maybe they're the face and voice of the brand, the first guest experience with the brand. Maybe they set the tone for the entire vacation. Maybe if we're talking about incentive travel, the person who shows up at the welcoming team, how they may never get to experience some of the luxurious travel and the incentives, but their effort matters because of how they set the tone. They're the first person that these winners get to see. And so if you're able to connect to a ripple effect or the face and voice of the brand or whatever it may be, giving that micro purpose, you're going to start seeing more motivated employees that actually take ownership of their work. That is what purpose is, micro purpose, especially, is so great at doing, providing ownership in contribution. And this is important because we're living in a world where distrust has become the default. We are all walking around with hidden barriers, with our guards up. And whether we know it or not, we have resistance to opening up. It is the cost of living among political tension, AI confusion, constant fear, and digital mistrust. So, in order to motivate our teams and early career professionals, well, we need to apply some communication shifts, some pre delivery communication shifts that turn resistance into buy in. And there are four primary communication shifts. Today, we're talking about number two, purpose that leads to ownership and contribution in a four-step process that turns resistance into buy in. And as I mentioned, most organizations will forget about micro purpose, but almost all forget about micro. And so, if you understand how to apply micro purpose to your earliest career professionals, you will start to see the needle move on your tangible organizational impact for purpose. So, comment 3R formula if you're watching this and you want me to send over the slide that I used on Tuesday when I delivered this message as the closing keynote speaker for the Global Meeting Professionals International Association in our Georgia chapter. So good coming to you guys here. It's been a while. Definitely feeling a little bit rusty on the live stream, but it's all good. I'm about to rush off for a March Madness event that I don't particularly care about basketball, but the leaders who will be there today have become super connectors in my life and community, and I cannot wait to go socialize with them after what I've said is a very sprinty early spring season of speaking. So I will see you guys next week, and we will continue on the weekly live stream.